So, for our online training today, we're going to be talking about mastering secure multi-site data management with Synology. Presented by Adrian Cantrubin, that's me. I'm a product specialist here at Synology UK. So, what's on the agenda for today? So, my hope is that by the end of this webinar, you'll understand the challenges that a sysadmin would face when creating a multi-site environment, as well as how Synology can help you first physically set up that environment with the hardware, as well as the software and applications that's used, and lastly, some tips and tricks, best practices to fully understand how Synology incorporates a multi-site environment. So I think the best way to sort of understand how Synology can help you set up a multi-site environment is to run through an example or a scenario in this case. Um, so our scenario for today we're going to go through is a multi-academy trust based in the City of London. They have sites in Wimbledon and Battersea and plans for another one. These are the three sort of parameters that they want to hit, which is they want to share information between those sites. That's a given. They want to send the staff from the main site in the City of London out to these new sites to train up or work there. And lastly, sysadmin wants to essentially incorporate these new sites into their Azure AD. I understand that Azure AD and Entra AD are the same thing. I'll be saying Azure or Entra intermittently. They're both the same thing. Entra is just the new thing that they're calling it. All right. So this is a physical overview of what the NAS deployment will look like. So each site will have different parameters. These are the parameters that we essentially hit to pick out the exact NAS that's perfect for that site. So Multi-Academy Trust, the City of London is their main one. These new sites are just emulating that structure that they've set up in the City of London. So Wimbledon, that's secondary school, hence the SA series. Battersea is a primary school, smaller school, so the DS 1821 plus. So we've done the first step, or step one of step one. So once we've set up what's physically happening in each of the sites, what are some of the challenges or hurdles a sysadmin will need to go through to create a multi-site environment? So in this scenario, I've boiled it down to 3 points. The first of which is uniformity. The reason why this is a key challenge is because implementing new or different IT structures in your new sites, you'd waste valuable time retraining staff as well as handling any issues with that new system. It's much easier to incorporate structures that the staff is already aware of as they head out to the new stuff. So something as simple as having the same login data, that's vital because as soon as the staff arrives at the new sites, they can just immediately provide value by working. Next, data synchronization. This is a given. We would need to figure out a way to implement a way to share data between the sites, and that's that we'll go through that in a bit. But the last point is, or the last challenge is monitoring. Multi-site deployments cannot be called viable unless we have eyes on them. So how can we monitor all of our solutions at each site without sending an admin out to each place to check up on it? So, so to tackle that first hurdle, that first problem, uniformity, what would be the way that we at Synology use what would be the way that we would do that? With that, we would use Synology Central Management System. So this is Synology application that you can get from the package center, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. In short, CMS is like a control center for managing multiple Synology NASs at the same time. The setup is quite simple. Choose a host NAS and then manage all the NASs at the different sites under that host. And we can do that all from just where that host is. So if we're in the City of London, we can just handle it all from there. We can also, some of the main things that we want to do is want to understand grouping as well as do things like batch install applications onto those new Synology NAS and configure them to our preferences. So rather than just sort of talking about what you can do with CMS, I think the best thing to do would be to run through a demonstration of it. So hopefully this works. Yep. If this should work, you are now all seeing a picture of Big Ben, which is this is represent our London, City of London NAS, which is which is our host NAS. And if we just go down to Central Management System again, something found in the Package Center. No. And you see we have an overview tab. First thing we want to check through is our server tab. So we have Wimbledon, Greenwich, and Battersea. So Greenwich, we'll talk more about that later on. It is connected, but the sites we want to focus on today are Wimbledon and Battersea. So the first thing I want to do is rather than have all servers, which is all three, have just one group. So the London School group. So if I already, this is just one I created earlier, but essentially this is how you do it. Um, you would add your groups together, save, done. Next is to run some policies. So these are policies that I've applied to all servers, which is just quite normal. Some SMB enabled, login attempts, power schedules, file station. But just to show you exactly how powerful CMS can be, if I just go on to, if I go into policy name, let's create a policy for setup and updates. And the description is at Wimbledon and Battersea, I want to install packages, set up auto updates, and some alerts. Tidy that up. So these are the rules. These are the different tasks that we can run. There's a lot of them. Won't be able to go through all of them today. If there's anything that stands out, anything you want to talk about, more than happy to run it through one to one. But for now, we'll just do what we set out to do, which is a package installer. So first things first, enable this rule, add, and this is a shared folder I've already set up. And here I want applications with your school. And let's say I just want to add Office right now, as well as school chat as well. And I also wanted to set up DSM updates. Enable this through, so that'll be the up-to-date DSM. You can also configure which DSM update you want by going to our website and finding out which specific DSM update applies to your Synology NAS. And lastly, I want any event messages to come directly to me. So if a CPU fan is stopped on any of the NASs underneath us, I want that to come to the CMS to the host. Next, I want to apply this to the group we created, London Schools, Wimbledon, and Battersea. And that's it. And if I don't want anyone deleting the policy or changing it in any way, I can go ahead and lock it. That way there's no accidental modification to that policy. Then I apply, and there it is. Now that's all running. So so this is CMS in a nutshell. These are the sort of the main thing I want to boil down into. There's also some monitoring and update things. So we've set up DSM updates, but you can also run through it all through here, as well as system package updates as well, and just some generic monitoring as well. Back. So that's CMS, and that's how we've incorporated that to help create our multi-site deployment. So just so London, City of London has all the packages, system, DSM preferences, all of the settings that the staff there work with understand. We want to emulate that as closely as possible in these new sites in both Battersea and Wimbledon, and we've done that. That's first step done. We've created a uniform system, right? But there's still some more things we need to do, namely the next hurdle, which is data synchronization. How do we share data from our main site in the City of London to both Wimbledon and Battersea? So if anyone's ever interacted with Synology before, or it's your first time, well, Synology Drive is sort of the first go-to file synchronization solution that we come up with. So our sites are set up physically, and thanks to CMS, we've set up our systems how we like them, but we need to share data between them. Synology Drive is the answer that you would think about, but there is something we can drill down a little bit further so we can adapt it to a multi-site environment. So we have multiple sites. how do we effectively use Synology drives? For file synchronization across different sites, you can use Drive Share Sync to sync data from our local NAS to our remote NAS. So this helps with same as if employees are working remotely or on site, Synology Drive Sync, and if they have a NAS where they are, but it also works if you have multiple sites. So this is sort of our first step in ensuring file synchronization between multiple areas with Synology NAS. So, so again, rather than talking about it and listening to me, how about we see it in action? So, so yeah, this is back to our drive. So the folder that I want to share out to everyone else is this one, London Schools. It has some important data for them. And if we go down to Wimbledon, hey, look at that. We're in Wimbledon. And I want to send data into into Synology Drive. So there are a couple ways to access Synology Drive. There's the web portal that opens up when I click this, as well as a client that opens up, which is like a mapped drive. But for now, we're going to focus on this Drive Share Sync. So I've already added our City of London NAS to the Wimbledon NAS, and the setup was quite easy. All I had to do was plug in my Quick Connect ID, and that was it. So the reason why it's on standby is because I didn't select any shared folders. So there it is, London School folder. I want apply that. Mm. Mm. Perfect. And it's done. And all I have to do now is update 3 files. Perfect. And right now I want to ensure that this is available on Synology Drive. That's where the admin console comes in. I go into our team folders, check on uh, let's come here, or secondary schools, I believe. Yep. And I would just enable it here. Okay. Perfect. And that is now available on Synology Drive, which is just open that up. And there it is. And that means that now that, so if I just go back here, so that means that the data that's available on the London City of London is now synced to both Wimbledon and Battersea. So any changes or any implementations that London wants to send out to Wimbledon and Battersea, rather than sending out or sharing out those files directly from their NAS or sending it in an email or anything like that, they can just upload those folders directly into their Synology Drive, and then Wimbledon and Battersea would have access to that immediately. So we set up a pretty good system. We have CMS managing the whole area. We have Wimbledon and Battersea and London all talking together in terms of data. But what if we expanded rapidly? And I mean quite rapidly. Let's say we added another site, Greenwich. So I remember before at CMS we added a Greenwich server already. Let's say Greenwich is using specialized departments like live editing or mass spectrometry for chemistry courses. If they're using a lot of data and they need to share that with Wimbledon, and Wimbledon doesn't have the space on their SA for all that data, how can we sort of let those two communicate with each other? So this is where our second solution for file synchronization comes in, which is hybrid share. Hybrid share essentially combines Synology NAS with C2 storage to create a hybrid cloud setup, hence the name. So again, compared to Synology Drive, where the primary data resides on a single NAS, hybrid share moves the data center from the NAS to the cloud. So this means that we create a cloud-based shared folder, and the folder that would exist on our on-prem would just be a small cache of most used files, things that you would need fast access to. But the bulk of your data will be in the cloud. And again, I talk about it when we can show it. Uh, uh, this is Yep. So we're at Wimbledon, and I want to set up C2 storage with our NAS there. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go down to our C2 storage dashboard. And I've already created the hybrid share folder. It's quite simple. Just click create and name it, as well as hit the folder quota. We have it. We don't have any devices added to it yet, so I'm going to go back to Wimbledon and I'm going to go to control panel, and it's just as simple as setting up a shared folder. I go to create mount hybrid share folder, and this picture explains it very well that we have locally accessed files here, which is just our most recently used files, set up to our quota. It's about 500, and but the bulk of all that data is up there. Mm-hmm. Now, yep, it's the general view. This is the one we want. So, okay, encryption key. So what you saw there was a use of our C2 password. And here we now, so when we set up our first hybrid share folder in this, we do need to set up an encryption key, and I'll explain why in a minute. So this, we're just gonna make it quite a simple password. There we go. These are two very important points. Once your encryption key is set, can't be modified or changed. And we don't have access to your encryption key. So if you lose that encryption key, that's kind of it, because we can't help you recover it. It's just a way for us to ensure your data is as secure as possible. Don't worry about the C2 password. And again, this is just then setting up a normal shared folder. Yep. Yep, and the users you want. The main difference between the files that are available here as well as the files on Hybrid Share is, like I said, all that data is in the cloud. So there should be, yep, a cloud image there. And if I was to, oh, sorry, if I was to go to a file station, go to curriculum, upload, and just, yeah, we'll add our pictures there. Add our privacy. And so we've set up one cloud. Next is we need to handle it in Greenwich as well. And there's Greenwich. That's where time is created. We go to our control panel again, shared folder, create, mount shared hybrid folder. Same thing. We have our one device set up. That's in Wimbledon. Okay, yeah. And instead, this time, instead of creating encryption key, we need to put in our encryption key. Okay. Yep. And that's it. Station. Curriculum. And you see we have Batterseas available here. And this status means that it's currently stored on C2 storage, but if we were to download it, it would be available to us locally on-prem. So, so now we've created our fully fleshed out multi-site deployment. We have Wimbledon and Greenwich talking to each other using hybrid share. We have London talking with the others using Synology Drive Share and Synology Drive SaaS Sync. And we have CMS essentially creating these new sites. So what is the last parameter that we need to hit? The last one is single sign-on. So if you remember at the start, one of the key things that they wanted to do was to ensure that they had their Azure domain set up with all these new sites. So with single sign-on, there's two ways to achieve that. There's C2 identity, and then there's Azure AD or integration of Azure AD to our Synology NAS. Just a simple overview of what these identity managers do. You add users, you add your devices, and then you choose which users can access which device. And all they would need to use is their same login credentials they would to access their email or even their laptop. So just a little bit more on C2 identity and C2 password. C2 password comes free with C2 identity. It's just a better form of something like Google passwords. So C2 Identity is our cloud-based identity access management solution. It's designed to help businesses manage user identities um, and access their data. So essentially, that picture that I showed earlier, it's essentially the best way to do that. The main point though is that C2 Identity is run through using C2 data centers. So it's all cloud-based. It's all done outside. So there's no reason to um, there's no adding a NAS unless you want to add the NAS as an edge server, which means that you still have your single sign-on to access your NAS with the same as whatever login credentials you create for C2 Identity. So, but however, in the scenario, they wanted to integrate their Azure AD into this. So for that, what we've done is the process can be a little taxing depending on how you go about it, but essentially it's just going onto a control panel and connecting your domain and then incorporating your SSO into Synology. More than happy to talk about that with anyone who wants to do sort of a one-to-one later on. Just let me know. So this is so we're slowly, fully fleshing out our sysadmin slowly fleshing out the multi-site deployment. We have Azure SSO handling, basically meaning that anyone from London, all the staff from there can go to Wimbledon, Battersea, or Greenwich and can use their same login credentials to access their data as well as the NAS. So what's the final hurdle? The final hurdle is how do we monitor all those sites? And the last site the last application that I want to talk about is our cloud-based Active Insight. So we've set up our sites, we've seen how the data is transferred between them. The final step is monitoring. Um, so Active Insight is the way we would do that, and let's just explain that a little bit more. So the first thing to know about Active Insight is that it is a cloud-based platform, meaning we can check our entire NAS setup anywhere, as long as we have access to the internet. This means that we can use our laptops or even our phones. We have CMS and Active Insight. So CMS is also, there's some generic monitoring there. Active Insight, we're more geared toward monitoring. We can be more proactive. And I'll explain that in our final demo. Uh, and that. So this is our overview of our Active Insight currently. So I've added all of our sites together, Wimbledon, Battersea, and London. And when we're looking at these metrics, what we can do is we can actually be, as a sysadmin, if we think that, oh, Battersea is using quite a lot of storage, we need to upgrade that. We need to upgrade that to either bigger storage or even a higher performing NAS. Using the metrics here, we can, with a sysadmin, can bring these data up to higher ups and effectively have a better conversation because they have the data ready. So the two things I just want to drill down with Active Insight is how we can measure performance, and lastly, what we can do when there's any security issues. So I'm sure everyone has noticed there's a big one on Wimbledon, and that is because an event has occurred. So storage pool one is degraded. So this means a drive has failed essentially, right? So what happens when we get something like this? Now, events can go anything from drive failure to problems with someone logging in from us, suspicious login attempts. So, and the way that Active Insight provides value in this situation is that more often than not, if a drive fails, we know what to do. But if we didn't know what to do, or if we wanted more information, Active Insight provides you step-by-step solutions that you can go through. So once we follow that through, there's also a video tutorial. And even if we can't resolve it, then we can create a support ticket down here, which will connect you to us and help us help you resolve it. And lastly, we can also use this as a sort of a ticketing system, because essentially we can, once we've resolved this, and I have resolved this, we can just go ahead and click mark as resolved. And of course, we have the protection tab, which again, like I said, there's the login activity and file activity. There's a lot we can do in Active Insight. And if anyone wants to know more information or wants me to run through with a more thorough demo, please let me know. So, and just a little bit further on what Active Insight can do. This is an email that I got as soon as that drive failed. So as soon as if we've set up notifications correctly, then rather than having to check on your Active Insight, you can just have that data ready for you right there, and it tells you the same thing as the ticket that I showed before. Lastly, we have this is our final setup. This is the way the scenario has worked out. So we have London being the initial setup. We have Wimbledon, Battersea, and Greenwich as the new sites. Any staff from any of those places can go log in from anything using their Azure Active Directory login. And finally, the sysadmin can monitor all of this using Active Insight. So with that, we've essentially hit all of the hurdles, all the parameters in this use case. Obviously, with multi-site deployments, there's other things to consider, but do you see how we can easily set up a simple mass deployment? So these are just summary points of what we went through today: CMS, Active Insight, Synology Drive Share Sync, as well as Hybrid Share, and finally C2 Identity and Azure AD as well. Awesome. So thank you, everyone.